Hi, True Crime Grapevine fans. It's me, Patty Lee, here with another case spotlight, just to give a little more detail on what happened this past week with our cases that I talked about during my Sunday scary case roundup. I'll be live later today. This will probably upload after that, but if you're watching it, hi. If you could like and subscribe, that would be great. If you do like and want to get notified, hit the bell, get notified when I upload. I should be doing a little case highlight uploads from my Sunday cases all during the week, but I will go live every night around 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to come and chat, it'd be great to have you. What am I drinking during my case highlight? I am drinking, it looks like a Moscow Mule, but it isn't, but I will be talking about Moscow. It is just 7-Up with some a little shot of iced cake from Smirnoff in it, if you can see that. I have a sweet tooth, so it's just it's after 5 here. The Idaho4 case is the case I'm just going to give you a little highlight on. The biggest updates in the Idaho4 case the past week. Mostly, this is the True Crime Grapevine, and I'm going to give you like the juicy renderings from the grapevine. They are gossipy. They are not to be considered as fact. We got that straight, right? All right, so one thing was, they're all over social media. People were hating on Nancy Grace. Now, Nancy Grace has perhaps a little bit like myself, which I appreciate, has a very strong personality, and you probably like her or don't like her right away. And she's got a delivery, and she's also developed sort of a shtick, right? She's got like this persona. I am sure her actual personality might not be exactly like she comes across on TV, right? And she's sort of very aggressively for the victims. And she was a prosecutor for victims. And that's her persona. And the thing online was, though, she produced her podcast from in front, actually a little bit aside of 1122 King Road. Now, she called it the murder house. Probably, again, it goes along with her shtick of being a little, oh my gosh, like very dramatic. One of those things probably where people go too soon. Please don't call it the murder house. So that was a little problematic. But again, this is Nancy Grace. And, I love her passion. And so maybe I wouldn't choose those words. I would call it the King House Road or, the Idaho4 house. Nancy, there are some suggestions for you, maybe, in the future. But people, that wasn't the thing. The thing was that they really were like, how dare she produce from in front of that place? This is disgusting that she's in front of the house that those kids died at. How dare she? Low class, no class, disgusting. All right. Now, who else was in front of the house from the very beginning? From the moment it happened, local reporters stood right outside the house on the other side of the crime tape. Also, some of my favorite YouTubers were at the house. Chris McCullough. Sorry, Chris, of the interview room. He did a walk around, and it was very interesting. He is ex-law enforcement, retired, and he and his wife gave a very good tour of downtown Moscow. They drove past the corner club, past where the food truck was, up to where the kids were. It was very helpful. But he was there, and he did something in front of the house, but TV wise, Bryan Kohberger, and that's the thing, was people are like, somehow she should be more, I don't know, I didn't really get why they were angry at her when Bryan Kohberger and Anjanette Levy from Law and Crime, Ashley Banfield from News Nation, like Bryan Kohberger, who else was out there? Many people from all the major networks out in front of that house, and have been. So Nancy Grace is late to that party. I mean, she just got there, and she did a show from there 2 nights. She did have a table. Okay, I just want you guys to understand. And I guess there was heaters and a tent. And she took a picture with a fan who wanted a autograph. So let's imagine, why would she do this? Why wasn't she? I mean, the other people were just standing in front of the house, but Bryan Enton was there for hours upon hours, days upon days. Why pick on Nancy Grace? Well, oh my God, she was sitting down and had a heater. The woman is 63 years old. The other people are in their 30s, some younger, maybe 40. But that's a big difference. So could we give her a break, please? That just, you might not like her. And if you don't like her, that's fine. I don't like sometimes the dramatic tone. I wouldn't say I'm like a fan, but I'm certainly not going to somehow pick on her when everybody else has been doing it. And she's not an old woman, but come on now. And if she would, imagine if she would have told the fan, no, I'm sorry, I can't take your, I can't give you an autograph. Then everybody would be like, oh, she thinks she's so high and mighty. She doesn't have to give it. It's just the feeding frenzy around this story is unbelievable. I'm sure some of you have clicked on this and already clicked off because I'm not going with, I'm not being Patty Pitchfork. I'm not going in on, oh my God, she's horrible. And I mean, there's a certain line that you can see a certain storyline take over in the media, and it sort of goes, hey, stop it, Kat. It sort of goes like how fish do, a school of fish, or you can see birds do it too, where a flock follows and they all seem to be moving in tandem. That's how these stories go. And that was a big thing this week. So hating on Nancy Grace. The other big thing was they mentioned a co-conspirator, and that was a big story. Why? The defense files, so nobody can talk to the media, but filings are public. The defense filed what is called boilerplate, meaning it's standard request for everything that the police have. And we know that they do this. But one of the standard things that they always request are, have you spoken to any, do you have any co-conspirators or other people, co-conspirators or co-defendants, and what have they said, what did you do, who did you interview that you think might be involved. They want that because that's exculpatory evidence, meaning they're looking for anything to get their client off or to mitigate his responsibility. That is what defense lawyers do, and we can't be mad about that because we would want that if we were suspected and alleged, and that's what all he is. He is innocent until proven guilty. And again, like I said, I'm not Patty Pitchfork. Am I going to say that what I have seen so far, which we've only seen the prosecution's evidence, but what have I seen? He looks good for it. He looks very good for it. Can I say he did it? No. Why? One thing is he's got a really weird personality, and that automatically makes people think he did it. Just like when you don't have a weird personality and you're very good looking, people get the benefit of, doubt. Like in Florida, Casey Anthony. If you were paying attention and just to the facts, that girl seemed very involved and guilty, especially considering her background and she could be related to Brian Walsh in another case we talked about this week, because she lied like that about sometimes nothing, just consistently made up things. Was a little bit ridiculous. No, but a jury found her innocent, and so she was found innocent. O.J. Simpson, did he do it? He says he didn't, and a jury found him innocent. Civilly, he was found guilty, which is kind of interesting, right? That you can be found innocent criminally, but then civilly of a wrongful death, they can find you responsible. Our system is interesting. So, I say all that just because we can't. Bryan is weird. He's weird. He looks a little weird. He looks awkward. Everybody said he was socially awkward. Put on top of that he was a heroin addict at one time, and then did he use other drugs? How did that affect his brain? We know he was smart. We know he's interested in psychology, and we know he was interested in serial killers, and so that makes an easy cognitive leap to, oh my God, then he is a serial killer. Do I think he might be? And I always thought the whole crime read serial killer before we had a suspect. That's what I thought. 4 at once, whatever. It looked very... The fact that Bryan studied under Dr. Ramsland, who was the BTK specialist, the fact that I'm going to say their name wrong. I wrote it down to say Otero. BTK's first crime was the Otero family, in which he killed 4 people and left a dog alive. A dog named Lucky, which I don't know if BTK thought that was funny or not. He said he didn't know a dog was there, but it seems a little too on the nose for me. But again, weirder things have happened, right? The dog was Lucky, was not unalived. We have a case where Bryan studied this specific person, and the specific crime happens where there's 4, and we know he walked past a 5th person, and everybody's like, well, maybe he was too tired, or maybe he had a number in mind if it was him, right? And he studied BTK, and he's like, BTK was 28, I'm almost 28, he killed 4 people, I killed 4 people, he left a dog alive, I'm gonna leave a dog alive. We don't know, right? We don't know. I find that highly questionable, but also only because I know who he studied under, and that's why my brain is making that connection. Again, but very serial killer vibes before we even knew we had a suspect. The other thing that is interesting that is still talked about is, Kaylee Gonsalves's dad came out right away and said he thought Kaylee was targeted, and then he told us why, because she seemed to be more brutally hurt than Maddie. Now, I don't think he saw anything about Xana and Ethan, though. Now I wonder if Kaylee was attacked more because Kaylee was the one who said, is someone there? It was her dog making noise. Did she open the door and did she, she was awake and she fought more? Could that be it? But I don't think she was the primary pick. Why? If it is Bryan, we know that Bryan went on a date. There was a woman who went on a date with him once in 2015, which, if we're doing the math, was when he was still supposedly on heroin. He was very polite during the date. She met him on Tinder, by the way. So, and Ikidmo had this on his channel, his whole channel is like a because he allows a lot of, he pays attention to his chat. They're always lives, and there's a lot of discussion with the viewers. And everybody was talking. He said, she reminds me, she showed a picture of herself now she has dyed hair, but she showed a picture of herself at the time she went on this date, and he said she reminds me of one of the roommates. She looked like Xana. Why do I think that matters? I personally think Xana may have been the target. Why? If you go back and Google a week before the murder, Xana's door was broken, and her dad came and fixed it, the lock on her door, something about her door to her room. Now, we know that Bryan's car, at least his phone, pinged 12 times prior to the incident. We know that he may have gone inside at one of these points to check out the layout, to know it very well. A little recon. That's very common in serial killers' murders. I do wonder, because Xana's sister went to Washington State University, did he see Xana visiting her sister or at some event? Or did he perhaps see Xana, who worked with Maddie at the Mad Greek? Because he was getting, a salad there. We don't know. But the fact that Xana's door was broken into, or somehow broken, and that her dad had to fix it the week before the murders took place, makes me wonder if she wasn't the target and her door was deliberately hurt so that there could be an easier entree. I don't know. Also, Xana seems to be the person who was wide awake at the time this occurred. And another YouTuber, Chris McDonough, had said maybe there was something about that DoorDash. Was it perhaps called in by somebody else? Or it's something that would ensure that Xana would be awake. And we know she whimpered and said, and then somebody told her, don't worry, it's going to be okay, or don't worry, I'm here to help. So it appears, I don't know if Xana saw Ethan hurt. Was Ethan, it will be interesting to hear the theory about what occurred. But if Xana was the target and the killer wanted to see her specifically upset, it worked out just like that. What do you think? You could tell me in the comments. You could you could subscribe, and we can continue this conversation when I go live each night. I probably will be bringing it up because everybody is still, even though we won't get any official information, if you go on YouTube, it's all about this case. Even though there are other crimes happening, which I will be talking about tonight on my live. But the last thing I wanted to mention about what we know and what we don't know as of last week. So with the affidavit, we do know now that when the officer came in, who was quoted in the affidavit, he was, I think, a state trooper. He came in at 4 p.m. that day. We know now that, one of the roommates was on that second floor, that she heard things, saw things. We know that Xana did get Xana was laying in the doorway. That's what I meant to say, which is interesting. They don't say where Ethan was, just that he was further in the room. It appears that Xana was closer to the doorway, and he said he could see somebody on the floor as he approached going down that hallway, which could explain the 911 call where they said somebody was unresponsive. Perhaps the roommate who had heard things the night before did go check, saw Xana unresponsive, maybe even checked, ran downstairs to tell the other roommate was it's been reported that DM, who was the roommate living on the second floor with Xana, but closer to the kitchen and the stairs going upstairs, that she, number one, had PTSD trauma from a childhood trauma. That is alleged. That's just, grapevine, juicy supposition from a post that somebody made, that DM had childhood trauma. She often couldn't tell, like, if she woke up in the middle of the night, if she was having a nightmare, if it was real life, which I think is common with PTSD. So if she had gone out, like they did, she wakes up at 4 because some noise was going on. The first thing she thinks is Kaylee's playing with the dog. Did she hear the dog barking because they were being unalived upstairs? And, well, what she heard first was Kaylee, who she thought was Kaylee, say, I think someone's there. Now, the police say that could have been Xana because Xana was awake, but I don't think she could have heard Xana from up into the living room and down a hallway as well as she could hear directly from upstairs, as I may have said before. So I think the stairwell acted like a funnel, and she very clearly could hear Kaylee say, I think someone's here, to Maddie, and maybe then the playing wasn't playing, if you know what I mean. Dog making noise, something happening, she's shutting her door and maybe blocking it out, traumatic response. Then she hears a short time later, we don't know how many minutes in between, Xana crying or whimpering, looks out her door and hears this whimper and hears a male voice say, I'm here to help you, it's okay. Again, if she's having waking nightmares from PTSD regularly, this might have seemed like, what the hell is this real? I think I'm dreaming. I don't know. Listens, then shuts her door again, Finally, a third time, as she's opening her door, she sees somebody sort of walking towards her and then makes a right outside. I don't know if she had a light on in her room, so if she opened her door, the person with the, shaggy eyebrows may not have even seen her face, especially if there's any light behind the person. Then she could see him, but he might not see her. We don't know. If I'm going with my, it was Bryan, this is a supposition, this is all allegation, this is my speculation. If it was Bryan and he was trying to be like BTK, I am wondering, number one, did he really not want to do this tonight because the Ortega family was killed January 15th? January 15th was yesterday, which would have been a Sunday. But due to watching the girls' Instagrams and posts, he knew that Kaylee was leaving. Why would Kaylee matter? Kaylee had the dog. So imagine if Bryan, if it is Bryan, supposition, speculation, he's just allegedly the killer, but if he was and he had been thinking about being like BTK, he was going to be 28 on November 21st. This is the 13th. So maybe he has been this whole time imagining he found a group of girls, a family that had a dog. Okay, great. He's thinking he's going to be just like BTK. He does what BTK did, right? Skulks around the neighborhood, hunts, getting ready. Maybe goes into the house the week before to make sure Xana's door doesn't work right, because that's his target. But he needs the dog there because that's part of his fantasy to redo the Otero family. If his first kill is going to be a reflection, an homage, if you will, to BTK, then he wants 4 at one time. He wants to leave a dog alive. And it would be problematic if Kaylee left and she was leaving the next day. Sunday, she was leaving Sunday to go home, and she was gone. She wasn't coming back to the university. That would ruin. So he was, if this supposition is correct, he was pushed that his fantasy, he didn't want to get a new target. Serial killers talk about when they're targeted, when they have a fantasy, they hone in, they don't want to let go. BTK even made a mistake, he said, because he wanted that one person and he couldn't have it wrecked. Once he was like going to kill somebody and he had it, that's what he wanted to do. It was a compulsion, almost an obsession. So that is why personally, and again, supposition, speculation, that if the suspect is Bryan, which it looks like it probably is, that I'm imagining his motivation was and I think he really wanted to wait until, I think we'd be waking up to this nightmare today if Kaylee didn't post that if she would have stayed at school and finished the school year. Personally, I think that I don't know. My other thing was the timing. They're asking about a co-conspirator, and we have that weird response this week that we've heard that his sister, supposedly it seems, posted something about, you're making fun of my brother and my dad. So that leads everybody to think, talking about everybody online that are ravenous, I forget what she said, but something negative, intimating that it was her brother, that Bryan was her brother, and that people were unfairly already judging him, which, let's just be honest, the pitchforks are out. If I'm going to take on my persona of Patty Pitchfork and let's go get him, kind of seems like it's him, right? I mean, let's just be honest. And we can all say he's innocent until proven guilty, but oh my God, don't you believe? See, that's the problem. But she's saying not only is that problem, she thinks that there was a issue with, he was doing drugs again, but this time it was cocaine, she said, and he was doing it with a security guard that worked for the university, that they were near the house doing drugs, that he was using a knife to cut it up, that the friend apparently took the knife and sheath then and went in the house, that he was looking at the girls, peeking in the girls' window. Now, Chris McDonough has when he went around the house, saw cinder blocks right around right near DM's window, but also not far underneath where you could use the hill, use the cinder blocks, and pop yourself up if you were like, I don't know, 6 foot tall, onto that third floor, the upper deck of the deck that would lead around to the third floor sliding windows. I'm just saying, I wonder if, number one, if that post is accurate, did Bryan tell his sister this so that she would tell everybody else, and it's a good story of, oh my God, there's this other guy. And there was a guy who was swatted in Washington State University, the shooting that was mentioned on the drive by the dad when they were in Indiana. That guy supposedly, he was much older than, not much older, he was like 10 years older than Bryan. He was supposedly a university security guard, but at Washington State, and he was threatening to unalive his roommates and was shot by police. So, like, again, this is what our brains want to do, right? Putting random things together and go, oh my God, that's the co-conspirator. That must be the security guard. Or no. Or Bryan's telling his sister something that she'll tell everybody else that sounds like there's somebody else because he's already got this in his mind, maybe. Or could Bryan have involved the security guard by driving him? Could he be involved in drugs again? Could he have that guy drive him from Washington State, and maybe that's why his car went up and around, up and around. Maybe that wasn't Bryan driving up and around. Maybe Bryan had this guy drive him into the neighborhood. He hopped out to do whatever he was going to do. The guy might not even know, right? Like, he might not have told him. And then that guy was like, where'd Bryan go? He said he'd be done whatever he was doing in 5 minutes. Where the F is he? And he drives around the neighborhood, comes back in and out. If somebody was driving Bryan's car for him, that means the time window, it first entered the neighborhood, like, I think 3:45 or 3 sometime after 3:30, and then left at 4:25 in a rush out of town. So instead of the murders being committed really fast between 4, when Dylan heard something, and 4:20, did perhaps the person get into the home before that, listen around, get the dog corralled, do some attacking? The attacking was her, you know what I mean? I don't know. Again, that is all supposition, but it lengthens the time, and it would explain another person that he could blame it on, and why he said, did you catch anybody else? That person might not even know what happened, maybe figured it out later. That guard also happened to have all his family in Lewiston, I believe it is, that town that he went to the second day. He went down into that town where he stopped at Albertsons. Was he taking that guy home? Was that guy freaked out? Did that guy then not be able to take it? And once Bryan was named as a suspect, it was before that, but did he, I don't know, get talked to by the police or do something that then enacted his PTSD, and he was going to threaten his roommates, but then he was killed? See how I can make a story, and all of that is just through loose connections and associations, absolutely no evidence. I don't know that Bryan knew that guy. I don't know that that's why he drove down in that town. I don't know, most likely, if Bryan is the person and he was a budding or active serial killer, do we really think that he had somebody with him? You usually don't bring somebody with you, because then that's somebody else you have to worry about tattling on you. So I would say probably not. The last little bit of speculation out there is that Bryan's university had access to a criminal lab that could show active body cams from crime scenes, and maybe he got into it and he was studying the girls' calls. Maybe he even called in noise complaints to look at the body cam. I think that's all. As far as we know, the university, Washington University, has said Bryan did not have access to that lab. He did not have access to any body cam. We do know, though, that at the beginning of the semester that he wanted to be a cop, help the Pullman police with digital work, cloud digital scanning. It sounded to me, unfortunately, so that we know he did do that. They didn't take him up on the offer. Maybe it was too soon. But if Bryan went with the purpose of doing a BTK homage crime, and he found the people that met his criteria that had a dog, he was waiting for the actual date that was the same as the Otero unaliving. Do we think that maybe if he was waiting for that to happen in January, was he trying to get into Pullman, Washington's police department because they would be looking for, they would be sifting through digital data looking for a car? Now, I don't know why he didn't get a different car, but we do know he changed his license plates, which again, though, would have been normal because his birthday was November 21st, and you're supposed to re-register and get new plates when you are, when your birthday, it's your birthday month. That's his birthday month, and he did get new plates. And instead of Pennsylvania plates, he got Washington plates, which meant instead of in Pennsylvania, you only need a rear plate. In Washington, you need a front and a back. Did he do that because he had committed a crime? Was he going to do it anyways because it's his birthday month? I don't know. I really do wonder, though, about the homage crime and if he was pushed because Kaylee was leaving. That also explains kind of why there could have been also more aggression towards Kaylee, because it's her fault. She was going to take the dog. It ruined his fantasy. She pushed his timeline, and he was mad. That explains the aggression towards him, and then the more time perhaps that he took with Xana to actually watch Xana's face as she walked into the room and saw her boyfriend dead, or as she had to watch him be hurt or something, which sounds like maybe why she was whimpering. And he said, "Don't worry, I'm here to help you." And she's looking at somebody who's hurt and like, "Help me." And she just whimpered in fear. We don't know. So that's what I have on the Idaho4, the chitter chatter online, and my theories. Again, Bryan is arrested. He has been charged. He will have his preliminary hearing in June. They're getting ready for it. So the filings and anything we see officially will be about getting discovery probably and some motions in limine before prelim motions. The rest is going to be really interesting. We're just going to hear what people say, like this girl who went on a date with him and said he was really awkward. Again, is he being targeted because he's really awkward and studied serial killers, so he must be one, and it's not him? Or did he study serial killers because he had that feeling himself? He kept it down with heroin, and then when he got, healthy, it all came back. He let himself go. He studied all about it. He honed in on BTK. He worked under her professor. He went out to Washington, known to be the land of serial killers, by the way, one of the states that is highest in serial killers, and set up his own homage to his, BTK fan club, and was going to do it on that date. Again, that is my crazy supposition. We will know more. We still don't have the 911 tape. That's the one thing that hasn't been let out. We now know there's, the surviving roommate. We know what she saw. We know what she heard in the affidavit. But that 911 tape, I think, is going to give us even more clarity as to what happened, and that's why we're not hearing about it. So please be kind to DM on the internet. Don't mention that she really had nothing to do with it, you guys. Absolutely not. And she probably does. If she didn't have PTSD before, she does now. So there is such a thing as survivor's guilt. We don't want to enact that. Let's please just give her some grace and leave her alone, and let's not mention her real name. That's why I use her initials. The other roommate, I am certain, also has PTSD from this situation, and the kids who showed up, because I am pretty sure somebody went and looked, at least minimally, and these people are traumatized. That's all I know right now. So that's my little spotlight of this case and what we've heard in the past couple weeks that I didn't tell you except during lives. I think we're all caught up. All right, bye. Oh, like and subscribe. Thank you.